What's that? Manufactured homes. How so? Totally. Okay. So look at this little opportunity that I've been working on. There's a builder down in Fort Worth called Legacy Housing. And we've been buying these little tiny homes from them. I can buy a tiny home from them for about 25,000 bucks. And then I've been putting these little tiny homes in my RV parks because we have 3 RV parks. And you know, it's just a little front porch, living room, kitchen, master bedroom, bath. I like these. These are good little money makers because in an RV park I can get like 800, 900 a month, or I can do them nights and weekends. So I've been liking these little homes. So we've been buying these, and then I noticed on their website they had this workforce housing. Now, has anybody seen like the oil fields, the man camps? Farmers will buy these, they'll put these on them. And the layout on these is really kind of interesting because it's 5 little studios. And each one has its own bathroom, and each one has its own kitchen. But this is really just a single wide mobile home. It's just a single wide. It's just a 15-foot by, let's see, each one of them is 14. So 14 times 5 is what? 70. So it's 15 by 70, which is how many square feet? That's 1,050 square feet. So it's basically a single wide, but with 5 little kitchenettes. Okay. So then I was kind of looking at the interior photos on them, and they're pretty nice. Like, obviously they're paneling, not drywall, but like the little kitchenettes are decent. Okay. But these are not HUD approved. Like these are not HUD. These are meant to be temporary workforce housing. So you even got the little hole for the heat pump for the central air. And so I took this plans because I have 5 manufactured home dealerships. I have one in Idaho, one in Missouri, one in Charlotte, one here. And I went to the city of Idaho Falls, and I said, what if I made these HUD approved and put them on permanent foundations? Would you let me put these on land and develop a 55 and older community? And they're like, yeah. So to make them HUD approved, I have to add a second door, which was, you know, switch the kitchen around and add a back door. I had to enclose the hot water heater in its own little closet. I mean, easy, really not difficult. I can buy one of these for $75,000. Now, $15,000 I can buy basically per studio. If I put it on a permanent foundation, that'd be about another 20 grand. So that effectively increases my cost 4,000. So I'm at 19,000. And then I'm looking at, you know, if I could buy a lot for 30K, do utilities and stuff. Effectively, I'm looking at being into these units for about 25,000 a piece. Now, here's where it becomes even more interesting, because we've been using this company, PadSplit. We're going to talk about this weekend. We've been using PadSplit here in Indianapolis. We've been using it in North Carolina. Who's heard of PadSplit? Who has not heard of PadSplit? So PadSplit is just boarding houses. So this is, oops. This is one of mine. So this was a house that I had as an Airbnb that I'm converting over to a PadSplit. And basically, I've been taking, because I had about 30 Airbnbs here that I'm making maybe $2 grand a month off of right now. And then I've been renting out the rooms by the week for $175 a week. So what PadSplit does is they go find weekly renters and they pay you per week. And then those renters share the bathroom, they share the kitchen, they share the common areas. Now, what I have found is I have an Airbnb just a couple blocks from here that I was making about $2,000 a month net on. I'm now making $3,500 a month, okay, by renting the rooms out weekly. And it's been interesting. We've been testing it for 2 years now. And what's interesting is if somebody's paying $175 a week, 175 times 52 weeks divided by 12 months, that's $758 a month. So if somebody's paying $758 a month, it's not just for a room for rent, they're also getting what? Utilities and Wi-Fi and landscaping included. And so somebody who's on a fixed income or somebody who needs to keep a second house or somebody who just got divorced or somebody who's retired, okay, they have a really high premium right now because there's no affordable housing. Who has noticed that where you live, there's no such thing as affordable rental properties anymore? They're going away, okay? Guys, I can tell you every city council in America, every county commissioner in America is freaking out because we don't have any affordable housing. When I started Alpine Property Management here 20 years ago, you could rent a 3-bedroom house for $750 a month in a blue-collar neighborhood. You could rent a nice house in a middle-class neighborhood for $850, and the very best rental properties 20 years ago here in Indianapolis were about $1,100, $1,200 a month. Now, 20 years later, you cannot get a single-family home for under $1,000 a month. That's how much rents have gone up. Who's seen that across the country? Rents are just insane compared to what they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because we are not building enough affordable housing. And so when I walk into a city council or a mayor or a county commissioner and say, hey, we want to develop affordable rental housing for $750 a month, including utilities, they're like, how can we help? Do you want free land? And so I started thinking, what if we did a PadSplit development with these? Because these are set up perfect for PadSplit. Like when I take an old Airbnb 2 blocks from here and I convert it to a PadSplit, I still have 2 or 3 of the tenants sharing a bathroom, right? They're all sharing the kitchen. But if I do these, there's no shared kitchens, there's no shared bathrooms. And each one of those 14 by 15 foot units is 200 square feet. PadSplit's been testing, because PadSplit's always been one person, no kids, no pets. So you're a little bit limited to who can live in them. But they've been testing this dual occupancy PadSplit. And we took I had one of my Airbnbs that I converted over. It had this huge master bedroom. And I thought, man, I got to be able to get more per week for this thing, since it's got a master bedroom, master bathroom that was like 300 square feet. And so I said, I'm going to test out this PadSplit dual occupancy. And it was actually a dad who wanted to put up a little screen and do a queen size bed and then a twin bed, because every other week he gets his daughter. And so he needed a place that allowed dual occupancy, but he couldn't afford anything more than that. So I thought it was really interesting that my first dual occupancy was father-daughter, but divorced, mom's in the house, he can't afford his own rental, right? And so he pays $250 a week for it. But even $250 a week, including utilities, $250 times 52 weeks divided by 12, that's still only $1,100 a month, but that includes Wi-Fi, utilities, landscaping, still cheap. So we went into the city of Idaho Falls and said, hey, we have 2 acres. We were going to put apartments on it. If we put these on permanent foundations, we want to do a 55 and older retirement community and rent the rooms out for $750 a month, including utilities. And they loved it. Because think about if you're on Social Security and you make $1,500 a month, and the only money you have, like 40% of our 65-year-olds, is $1,500 a month, that's not a bad way to go. Because now you're covering your housing with half your Social Security check, and you can actually afford groceries. You don't worry about utilities being too high in the winter or summer. You don't worry about landscaping or snow removal. Can you see how finding a viable, so like I want you to think, if all you have is $1,500 a month and you're retired, who would consider living in something like this? Like put yourself in their shoes. I would. I wouldn't mind a 55 and older community like that. I mean, what are your options? Put yourself in 40% of our retirees' shoes right now. What other option are you going to do? Who's got some ideas? What's that? RV park? Yep. Yeah. Those little studio houses, because it's the same thing. And I'm getting like $800, $900 a month for those. Or people will buy a fifth wheel and move into it. Now you can take I have an RV park in Austin near Tesla that we bought, and most of my residents in that RV park in Texas are long-term tenants. They're not night and weekend RVers. They're 12-month lease RVers. And we're only charging them $500 a month for that lot, okay? But what do they still have to pay for? Utilities. Yeah, they still have to pay utilities. And in Texas, your utility bills aren't bad in the winter, but in the summer, air conditioning and the inefficient RV becomes very expensive. And so even in that RV park, those guys are still averaging, with utility bills, over $800 a month to live there. And so that's one of the reasons why I love this, because I still think that, this is, when we put these in Idaho, it's going to be insulated. It's going to have the highest level of insulation that you can put into a manufactured home, because Idaho, right? Because it's so cold there. And so, I can't think of a better alternative for autonomous living for a 55 and older than combining PadSplit and manufactured housing as a solution for affordability for seniors. Because think about this, if you solve for X, if you solve the affordability issue for our 55 and olders who are on fixed incomes, think how many 40% of all of our 65-year-olds becomes. You're talking about 30 million people that are trying, because what else are a lot of them doing? How are they solving? They're moving in with their kids. That's something I've seen. If their kids are they're doing a tiny home in the backyard, like an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. I've seen that. Or they're getting roommates. So, they're moving in with 3 or 4 other seniors into apartments or houses.